everyone. Oh, I shouldn't hit the desk like that. That's going to be unpleasant for you guys sonically. There we go. Howdy. Welcome to Live Coding. I don't need that anymore. Looks like we are good to go. Hopefully we won't be having any more outages. That was actually on my ISP. They were having some instability. So we are starting back up with our dialogue bot project. Dialect bot. Dialect. They're all dialogues. That's how conversational AI work. We're starting back in with our dialect quiz project. And the general idea for this project, for those of you who are joining for the first time, is that there's a while ago, there was this New York Times quiz that was, before that, a Shiny app. Shiny is an R platform for building, an R framework for building UIs. And before that, it was the Harvard Dialect Survey, which was a large-scale piece of data collection around different dialectal markers in American English. And by American here, I mean specifically the United States. I don't believe much information was included on Canada or North America or Mexico or South America at all. Specifically United States English. And the way that it worked is that you would answer some questions like this one. How would you address a group of 2 or more people? I tend to say y'all. And it would tell you, oh, hey, that's a feature of this sort of area, and then continue to ask you questions. So I think I usually say crayon. Yeah. Anyway, that's the general idea of the quiz. And I was thinking that it would make a really good application for a conversational interface. So first off, because this multiple choice, I definitely say brew through here, a multiple choice question like this is going to lead people into certain directions, and having people sort of think about it and reflect internally and then say what they think the answer is hopefully going to give you a little bit more of a accurate idea of what their usage is day to day when they're not taking dialect quizzes. And also, I would like to have this have a voice interface. So once we've got it up and working, it would be really nice to have an Alexa or Google Home or other voice interface interactions so people can take it via voice. I'm Alone always says, we request to do a chatbot for a website, and yes, we will get there. Probably not today. So something I mentioned the last couple times is that I don't have the data yet, and I've been emailing with BertVox, and I still don't have the data, but I think we can get around that pretty easily. I don't know how to say that, sorry. Akasasuki, maybe? Sorry if I said that wrong. Said, I think you should post these streams to YouTube. They are on YouTube. They are on the Rasa channel. Just Sasuke is enough? Okay. Yes, they're on the Rasa channel, Rasa, R-A-S-A, like in the corner over there. So that's the general idea. Last week, we worked on a number of things. We almost got to the point where we could train our bot, and not quite to the training portion because I ran into some technical difficulties. And what I did off stream was I'm just opening folders in the window behind this one now. What I did off stream was I spent a long time futzing, and then I just reinstalled the libraries I was using, and then it worked fine. So I should have done that to begin with. I mentioned that on Twitter that was something that I had done, and yeah, worked great after that. So let's head over to our coding environment. Did it work? It worked. Excellent. Oh, I'm in a slightly different place. I scooched over a bit. So I reinstalled from 0. Affinity says, hi, Rach. Hi, Affinity. Welcome. And Whale says, are there any official/unofficial tutorials, please? Yeah, so this isn't really a tutorial. This is just sort of me figuring things out live. If you're interested in tutorials, the Rasa Masterclass, which is also on the Rasa channel, that Yusta has done, is fantastic, and there's new episodes of that coming out in the future, and it's sort of currently in active development. So I'd recommend that if you're looking for just sort of like more of a lecture style. I'm Alone says, how to integrate the chatbot with a chatbot. That, I'm not entirely sure I know what you're asking. A little sip of coffee. If you're, oh, okay. This mug was a birthday gift. It says, I work hard so my hedgehog can have a better life. I don't know that he cares especially, but we did get him a bigger cage recently. If you're asking if you can have two chatbots talking to each other, I mean, you can absolutely. I would not in general recommend that as a method of data augmentation because it tends to get real weird real fast. I haven't seen anyone have success with that. So that's my, if that's what you were asking, that's my answer. And if that's not what you were asking, that's still my answer to the question that I thought you might be asking. All right, so let's check out what our bot looks like. So we did quite a bit of work last Friday, getting things working. We added some additional intents to inform, and some of these were for answers to questions that we think that people might say. And also I added some entities. So we have here 3 questions in our little first draft. The first question is, what do you call a crustacean that lives under logs and can roll up into a little ball? Actually, it's under domain, I believe, is where the exact text of the question is. Capitalize this. What do you call the small bug, technically a crustacean, that's often found under logs and can roll into a little ball? So that's one question. The second question is, what do you call a sweet carbonated beverage? And then the third question is, how do you address a group of 2 or more people, as in are blank ready to go? So for me, I'd probably say roly-poly, soda or Coke, and then y'all. And for each of these questions, we expect that people will provide an entity. And we have some examples of those here. So for the bug question, people might say wood bug or pill bug or roly-poly or slater, apparently, or doodle bug or potato bug. They might say soda or pop or Coke for the question about the carbonated beverage. And then for the second person plural, they might say you, y'all, yous, yins, you guys, you. Let's add a new one, probably yous guys. So there's different ways that people could say this. So in the brackets means this is the text, it's the entity, and then the part after that is the what the entity is. Person. So this is all training data for our system. And then some things where people might be saying thank you, and then some things where people might just be chit-chatting, and then some things where people might be like, hey, I'm done with the interaction now, and then some things where people might want to know if this program is a bot, and we want to make sure that people can find that out. John says, does I'm Alone want a chatbot because they don't want to be alone anymore? Question mark. It sounds like I'm Alone is working on a specific project, but haha. Pranav says slightly bigger font. Oh, I can definitely make that happen. Whoop, whoop. Let me know if that's big enough. Are you going to use the PyTorch library? Vidyasagar says. I believe right now a lot of the Rasa infrastructure is built on TensorFlow. You can definitely use PyTorch if you want. It's open source. You're absolutely free to extend things as you like. But I'm not going to be futzing around with TensorFlow or PyTorch today. And Affinity Propagation says there's a pretty cool theme for VS Code called Synthware. You should check it out later if you're into glowing variables. So I'll check that out. My main thing for, especially for live coding, is something that's high contrast, so it's a little bit easier to read. And also I'm going to move myself out from in front of the text. There we go. But I'll check that out. And Marco says, hi, Rachel, doing a bot again? Yes, it's always going to be conversational AI or related things. So this is one set of our training data. Another set of our training data are stories. So the order that we think people might want to do things in. So one thing might be the user says, howdy, and the bot says, howdy back, and then asks them if they want to start the quiz. And if they say yes, then we will do this form. So that's what we spent most of last week or last Friday working on. A form is an action, and an action can be any arbitrary code that your bot can make a call to and then get information back. Form actions are of special class of actions. You can see here it's the elicitation form. And what it does is it asks questions for the information it doesn't have until all of the information has been gathered, basically. So here, this particular form, I'm gonna make you smaller, there we go. This particular form has 3 slots that it wants information about. It needs to know about bug and beverage and second person plural. So I showed you some examples of that earlier. And all of these are going to come from the inform intent, and none of them are going to come from, we could also say that we wanted it to say not be from the greeting intent, for example, but we didn't choose to do that. And then when it's all done, there we will send, the form will send back to us an utterance that's like, here's the form, here's all the information that we got. So that's the idea there. And that's what this says. This says, hey, run this form. And then we have another line here that's like, okay, we're done with the form, no more form. And then this utterance here is going to tell us the information that the form collected. And by us here, I mean the user. And then the user says, thank you. And the bot's like, hey, yeah, no problem. And another path might be someone says hi, and the bot's like, hey, do you want to start a quiz? And the person's like, nah. And the bot's like, yeah, no problem. And finally, you always want to include a bot challenge so people can figure out if your bot is a bot, in fact. Because, you don't want to mislead people. Yeah. Marco says, if you're going to connect it to the Twitch API, then make the bot wait a few seconds before asking for a quiz to sound not pretentious to people in chat. So this probably won't be something that I do via Twitch. Again, my eventual goal is for this to be a voice interaction. So that's the training data that we're going to use. This is information on the form. This is information on the NLU pipeline up here, and then the dialogue policies that we're going to use down here. Oh, and CRF entity extractor is conditional random fields entity extractor. I have been doing some reading. And we can also handle synonyms as well, which is nice. And then endpoints, this is where, because the action can be any code, we need to run it on its own server, and this is where the server will be run. So that's the information that we have in our bot so far, and we spent last week, messing with that and getting that the way that we want, and now we should be able to actually run it. So first, let's train it. So I have Rasa installed, and the train command is going to train in my current current directory, but you can see that I actually already trained a model to make sure that it would work. And it is in here, and it hasn't changed, so I haven't added anything new. And that's a binary, we don't need to look at that. So now, if we just try to run it in the shell, sorry, I'm moving windows around over here. Sina says, I was expecting to see this on the Kaggle channel. I am no longer working at Kaggle. I am now working at Rasa, hence the switcheroony. But welcome, Sina. It's good to see you again. I mean, in the cyberspace, I guess. So we can interact with our bot using the command line interface. Whoop, 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 whoop. Train is what I used to train the bot, but I already had a trained model, so it didn't do it again to save compute and time. Rasa, scroll. Rasa shell, let me make this wider and also bigger. Rasa shell will let you talk to your assistant on the command line, and then Rasa run will run a server with your trained model. So if you wanted to host on a website, that's how you could do that. And then we have a second run action to run the action server using the Rasa SDK. So let's find out what happens if we just run the bot without any action server running. So it's starting a Rasa server for us. What if I were over here? Well, you can see a hole in my green screen. There we go. All right, I'm on the other side now. It's very weird over here. So let's have a little conversation. We got a trained model. Let's talk to it. Howdy. Hello, this is a dialect bot. Do you want to take a quiz to learn more about where in the United States people talk the most like you? I'm gonna say sure. Sorry, I didn't understand you. Please input something else. So what happened was that sure wasn't correctly mapped to infirm, so I'm going to say yes instead. Affirm, sorry, not infirm. Estanken. Oh, and we had an error. So the error was that it failed to run the custom action elicitation form because it couldn't connect to the server. Remember that I mentioned that the actions need to run on a separate server. That server was not running, and when I tried to make a call to the forms, I got this error back. And you can see it did its best, and it couldn't actually run the form, so none of these slots were filled, so all of the slots are just filled with none. And I'm just going to stop this. So what I can do to actually get my form information, my action that I spent a bunch of time making, is that I can open a new terminal, and I can do Rasa run actions, and this will run a server for just my actions. So this is a new shell, and I'm just going to leave that running, and then go back here and try again. Sina says, thanks, always been a fan. Oh, thanks, Sina. Avinash says, hey, Rachel, can you also try to run E2E stories as well? End-to-end stories? I'm not entirely sure what you mean by that. Could you elaborate a little bit? Okay. So let's try this again. Yep, I'd love to take a dialect quiz. Okay, so clearly we're going to need to do a little bit of fine-tuning on this particular bot. So what do you call the small bug, technically frustration, that's often found under locks and can roll into a little ball? I'd call that a roly-poly. Failed to extract slot bug with the action elicitation form. Sorry, I didn't understand you. Try input something else. I'd call that a roly-poly. What do you call a sweet carbonated beverage? Soda. So if you'll remember, I had an example that was just the entity for the pop entity, but I didn't have an example that was just the bug name for the bug entity. So I'm probably going to want to go back and augment my training data a little bit so that it can cover examples like this. How do you address a group of 2 or more people, as in, are blank ready to go? I'd say, y'all. And then we have all of the answers. So we can see that the bug entity was successfully extracted as roly-poly, the beverage entity as soda, and then the second person plural as y'all. And I could say thanks, and it should say you are welcome, and then I should be able to, I want to stop. Nope, that's not how you spell stop. That's not going to work. I want to stop. Quit. Okay, so I should probably revisit my data a little bit. But we can see that the general form filling worked. So what I want to do is actually go back and augment my data a little bit in order to make it better to use. So let's just add a couple of examples where we just have the entity by itself. And then let's have a couple of these ones as well, again, where we just have the entity by itself, because I think that will be a little bit more accurate. I don't know. I guess I thought I would want to type whole sentences, and when I actually started to use it, I didn't know. And then, do we have a stop intent? I want to, what did I say? I want to stop. Stop. Stoop. Quit. And then why not? Let's add soaked as well, because I think I did do that. And then for this, I said sure, and that wasn't handled well, so let's add sure there. And also I say yes and yep, and neither of those were handled well either. Let's add just yep on its own. Okay, so I've added a little bit of additional data. So let's try retraining our bot. Oh, that line wrapping is weird. Nothing has changed. Some stuff has changed. No tracker session configuration was found in the loader domain. Domains without a session config will automatically receive a session expiration time of 60 minutes in version Rasa versions 2.0 if not configured otherwise. I don't know what that means. Avinash says we can use the convert pipeline to get better results from NLU. Oh, that's a good point. Yeah, we could use the convert pipeline. And Gaurav says, I feel like Rasa should be more simplified. It feels like there's a lot to do and lots going on in parallel in Rasa. My opinion, correct me if I'm wrong. I mean, you can do very simple things with it, but Rasa is really designed to be a fully fledged library that you could use for any, what do we say, mission critical application. So anything where you really need a bot to work, we want it to be very flexible and extensible. So you can get started very simply, but having sort of lots of rich features is good for most people. But if you think there would be a way that would be easier to get started, like something that would make it like a lot simpler, yeah, if you have any suggestions, please let us know, or file an issue on GitHub if you're running into any particular problems. We love feedback. All right, let's try the convert pipeline. That's not a bad idea. So our current pipeline is white space tokenizer, conditional random fields, entity extractor, entity synonymator, count vectors featureizer using this token pattern, and then an embedding intent classifier. Let's just quickly look up the convert pipeline on the docs. So I'm just getting that going in another window over here. So we have a lot of options here, but let's check this. Convert will only work on English, which we are working with English data, so that will work for us on this particular project. This pipeline uses the convert model to extract a vector representation of a sentence and feeds it to the embedding intent classifier. So convert is a transformer-based model that is based on conversational data, I believe from Reddit originally. Excuse me. Okay. And it's sort of like a sentence vector, but specifically for conversational applications. Am I going to sneeze again? No. Oh, and actually let me move the mic slightly so you guys can have slightly better audio quality. Supervised embeddings. I'm looking for a code example. Supervised pre-trained embeddings convert. Where would that replace it? And I have 100%. There we go. Lost my goodbye. I've 100% lost my train of thought. Ankit says, can you call the same Rasa form more than one time, or can you say at the end of the Rasa form, can you call the same form again? Yeah, you can absolutely call the same form again. So I'm going to scooch this over instead of trying to get it back out from underneath stuff again. So in stories here where we have one form and then no form, you could instead have one form and then a second form, or one form and then the same form again. If you wanted to get multiple informations for the same slot, I guess. So if someone wanted to take the dialect quiz again, we could definitely have them have that option. Good question. Avinash says, I believe Rasa is powerful since we can customize and build a bot in any language, hopefully. I have built chatbots in 4 Indian languages, and no other frameworks provide me such cool customization. It's in the component stock. Oh, for the thing I was looking for, thank you. That's really cool. What languages have you built chatbots in? I would be interested to hear. Components. Text features. Let me pull it back over. All right. Oh, sorry, this is a little bit small. Excuse me. Things are just starting to bloom here in Seattle, and I think I am allergic to something. And eventually I'll go to a doctor about it, but not today, I guess. All right, so pipeline name. We're not looking at the pipeline anymore, but we can definitely get back there. Pipeline name, and it is featureizer outputs. Nothing using it as input to different classifiers and response selectors that need intent features and response features selectively. All right, let's try that out. We may have to install some additional stuff. And I know that I'm getting a little bit off topic. I said that we'd work on custom actions, but technically forms are custom actions, so we can try doing something in a little bit. And Avinash says Hindi, Kannada, Telugu are the Indian languages, and then English as well. Oh, cool. Indian languages are really interesting. Actually, fun fact. So my my PhD is in linguistics, and a lot of the work that I did was in a subfield called phonology, which studies sound systems. And phonology as a field was like way back started in India. In sort of like analyses of Sanskrit texts. So it is a very old academic discipline. What was I doing? Right, I was looking at the convert featureizer. Actually, let's see if we can find a convert example. I think that would be helpful. You know what? No, we're getting off topic. We're getting way off topic. We're supposed to be doing custom actions. We will work on this later. For now, let's work on adding a custom action. So eventually I want my custom action to apply a trained model. For now, we're going to have it do something a little bit simpler. But I want to have sort of the bones of it there, so then we can add some flesh later on. That's an awful way of saying that. So the bones of it there, so we can add additional functionality later on, like we're making some sort of Frankenstein monster. So if you do not already have an actions folder, that is where your action will go. And I am going to define a new class, custom actions, and I'm gonna pull up the SDK real quick. Sorry, I'm doing my Googling in another window because otherwise I have to like bring things up from the back, and that's just difficult for me. Nope. All right, so here's the SDK, and I'm interested in actions. So we're going to create a new class, just like we did from the forms. And the action can be called anything that we want, and it's going to be an action. And we will have some parameters available to us. So one is the dispatcher. So this is what we use to send information, whatever the action generates, back to the user. And that could be an utterance. And then when we call that action in our from our conversation, if the action doesn't dispatch any utterances, if it doesn't say anything, then it'll just be run without telling the user anything. So this might be useful for something like, logging in, for example, or other things where the user doesn't need to know about it. I'm not good at coming up with examples right now. Sip of coffee. But we could use it for that. The state tracker. So the state is what's happened in the conversation so far. And this is what's going to allow us to get the slots. So remember that the form, we set some slots and we got some information and filled them. And we can also see things like the latest message and then anything else that's stored in the tracker. And the tracker is going to be pretty much the history of the whole conversation. And then domain, the bot's domain, which I don't think we're going to mess with this time. So let's scoot you back on over. Whoop. And we will refer back to that as needed. So we're going to create a new action. And this we're going to want to keep as well, so we know what to call it. So let's call this dialect feedback, I guess. Dialect knowing. Let's call it dialect detect. And make sure we update our doc string. Detect the user's dialect. And then we want to make sure that we give it a name, and we're going to call this dialect. Oh, detect dialect. We are going to need to get the information out of it. So let's create a new method, and we need to take in information from the previous slots. I'm trying to copy and paste the documentation in the other window. Why is this hard? So we should be able to get the slot information like so. What should we call this function? Slot mappings. I was trying to see if there was any sort of helpful function naming. Who is it who says the only hard things in computer science are like naming things and something else I don't remember? I don't think I need to, I don't think I need to pass in the tracker. Could be wrong on that. We'll find out, I guess. Ambush says thoughts on, or maybe Ambuy, sorry if I've gotten that wrong, says thoughts on the Mina bot and its competition / threat to Rasa, completely different. So Mina is a natural language generation chit chat bot. And Rasa, we don't really, like, we're doing more like natural language interface stuff. So a chit chat bot is not accomplishing any task, right? You're just sort of talking back and forth to it. And for us, we don't, I mean, at some point in the future, we might be interested in adding natural language generation if it, you know, gets to the point where that's reliable. But all of the things that our bot can utter is in here, right? So these are all of the utterances, and they are all user defined. So it's not, like, it's interesting. I think it's a really cool research project, and they've done really good work, but it's not in sort of the same, it's not solving the same problem, you know? Also, it's not available. Like, they've published the research on it, but the trained model itself is not available for people to use right now. So, yeah, no, I think it's a cool research project. I'm really interested in seeing where they're going. But, you know, it's different. Good question, though. Yeah, message retracted. Mustafa says, what are you building? Just joined. We're building a quiz to guess people's dialect based on their answers to some questions, assuming that they speak English from the United States. And Ankit says, at the end of the Rasa form, when we call again, it's not resetting the slot values. That's a good question. Okay. So, also this is not a form action. This is a regular action. That's a good question. Let's double check that. So I do have some code I wrote earlier with a custom action that I'm just gonna look at just real quick. So boop, boop, boop. Oh wow, that's very, 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 very tiny. Okay. So what did I do? Okay, so I do need to pass in the self dispatcher tracker. I don't think I probably need the domain for this. I might though at some point. Okay, so we will pass in all of those. And then here what this little bit of code is doing is that it's using the tracker to get the latest message and to get the first entity that was mentioned in that message. And then it is using that to look up a name in a CSV file that's just like locally. So not that fancy, really, but it is a little example that I will use to build off of. Okay, so we do need to pass that in. I think this is set for the user at this point. Yeah, let's try a little one and then see if it works. Let's try a little example. Sorry, I know I'm sniffing. Okay, so let's just for example, let's just set the slot dialect as United States for the moment. Again, because we don't have the data we need for the ML component yet, and we'll get to that when we get that. Always guess US for now. So not really the most exciting, but how can I use that to make sure that I've gotten the bug information from the tracker? I'm thinking about how to do this, and all of the ways that I'm coming up with are just real dumb. Yeah, well, let's try it. We'll get an error if it doesn't work. Mustafa says, just to let you know, guys, I love Rasa. Oh, kind of a love at first sight. I'd assigned 3 of my engineers to learn Rasa. So far, it's going good. I'm from Bangladesh. Oh, awesome. I'm really glad you're enjoying it. And if you have any questions, I'm sure you already know this, but feel free to hit up the forums. Because I am kind of new. Okay. So, placeholder method for guessing dialect. Nope, dialect. There we go. Yep. So let's do this for now, and I believe I need to set it as just a regular custom action, and I believe that that is just action. Because if I don't do that, it's not going to get... Did I not import action? Sure didn't. All right, I want to import action, and then I believe... I am not typing this from memory. I have my other repo open in the window over there. From Rasa SDK. Nope, just 1K. Actions. Import and action. There we go. Improd is nothing. Import. There we go. Okay, so that will allow me to, this should be capital A, this is what's going to allow me to get the dispatcher tracker and domain information. Yeah, so we have our very baby awful, it's not awful, it just needs time to mature, custom action, and we need to add it to our domain, I believe. So Rasa add custom, I believe it goes under a new heading called action, but I want to double check that. So I've got Customs actions to actually get the utterance back. Again, I'm looking at let's check domain. Let's see. Okay, so what I did for this one is I had two different utterances. So we were just checking if somebody was in a data set or not, basically. And the utterance was picked based on the information that was returned by the action. So I want my action to actually have an utterance on its own where it has the information set. So I want it to be like, I think that your dialect is like that of people from Michigan or whatever. So let's from the form. Hopefully. I think I did that right. We'll find out. We'll discover together if I did in fact do that correctly or not. And then we can utter a message, except we don't actually want utter submit, which is, yes, okay. Here. Actually, no, I think we do want utter submit. Yeah. Okay. So looking at this, we're getting there. So utter submit, that was originally called from within this submit action. The utter slot values. Okay, so I think we can actually do the action without it doing anything. No. Okay. So what I want to do is first have an action that's like, we're doing it. Let user know the analysis is running. So I want to do that before I do anything else in the action, and I actually want to create a new utterance for that, and I'm going to call this utter working on it. Text crunching the data ... Okay, excellent. So utter working on it. So this utterance will be done at the beginning of the action, because I don't know how long this is going to take eventually. And then for now we can just sort of ignore this bit, because that will be input to the machine learning model that, again, does not yet exist. And we're going to set a slot but not say anything. So we should create a new utterance that says what this slot is. And the slot we called dialect. So I need to add that as a slot here. And I'm just going to give it the same qualities as our other slots. So the only way that this slot can be filled is by running the action, and right now it will just always say United States. How's that? Is that better? I'm trying not to cover the code too much. So the slot will always say United States, and then we want an utterance. I'm going to put it under here. Utter dialect value. And what I want to say is text your dialect is most like maybe most likely, and then dialect. You sound like you might be from dialect, and then here I'm actually going to say the United States. There we go. Just so that sentence will work a little bit better. Okay, so we have an action called detect dialect. What it does is it can run this guess dialect action where it will, at the beginning of running the action, say, working on it, and then it gets one slot filled from the tracker, which may or may not work. Actually, it's just... Let's see if that works. The parentheses is Python 3, right? Right? Parentheses is Python 3, yeah. And then it will set a slot for dialect. And then we have a new utterance that calls on that slot. So we need to make sure that we add it to our stories so it actually gets used. So let's go back up to stories. Utter slot values. And here, instead of, well, we'll keep the utter slot values for now. We're going to utter dialect, I believe is what I call it. Utter dialect value is what I called it. So we're going to have this here. But if we just do this right now, nothing will happen. We need to make sure that we also run the action. And in order to run the action, we need to... sorry, I'm looking for my... okay, so I'm looking back at my other project. It's under domain. Our action is under actions, correct. I just want to check my stories really quickly. I'll be under data, stories, to look what the yeah. Okay, so you just use the name of the action in stories. Very simple. So this is a this is an example where we fetch the information. If the slot is affirmative, then we say, yeah, they're a contributor. If the slot is no, then we say, no, they're not a contributor. So that's the way of doing it. So I just need the name of the action in stories, and it is detect dialect. All right. Yeah, let's give this a shot. And now we should be able to retrain. Oh, I made a mistake. Oh, right. And the mistake was that I put the words in the wrong order. All right. So now our new model should have our new action. Cannot access action utter dialect value as that name is not a registered action for the domain. All right, somewhere I've made a typo probably. Utter dialect value here, and then in the domain it is called utter dialect value. All right. And is my white spacing off? That's also definitely a possibility. That looks right. That looks right. All right. Let's save that, which I believe might actually have been my problem. And let's try train again. Yeah. A typo. Let's check the Rasa SDK really quick. Rasa SDK actions. Bring that over here. I really really just want the documentation for the server. Pip to install on your action server. Rasa run action. So this is all about running the action. Here is the action class. Oh, okay. So it's not from actions. It's just from Rasa SDK import action. I don't know why I tried to run that. I just need to save it. Alright, so now we should be able to run our action server and have it work. Let's start a new terminal. Rasa run actions. So this is the server that will run both the form and our detect dialect, and you can see those are both registered functions. That's fantastic. You can't see, my head's in front of them. Whoop. Those are both registered functions now. There we go. So when we go back to our first, do I have to say Rasa run shell or just Rasa run? It's just Rasa run, right? Rasa shell, there we go. I should be able to interact with both my actions. So I'll say hello. Do I want to take a dialect quiz? Yep. Oh. All right, I'd say. All right, so clearly room for some improvement. We can go back with, probably next week we'll use Rasa X and work on improving this a little bit more iteratively. All right, encountered an exception while running action detect dialect. Bot will continue, but the action events are lost. Please check the logs of your action server for more information. You sound like you might be from none. So none is the default uninitialized state of any slot. Because as you will remember, I didn't give it a default value. So let's check our action server. Not implemented error. An action must implement its run error, its run method. Oh. Okay, so I think the problem is that I called this guest dialect to not run. All right, let's try one more time. Open a new terminal. Rasa run actions. All right. And then we'll probably want to stop this and then try rerunning it. So Rasa shell to run our assistant in the shell. It's thinking. Excellent. Let's do our little quiz again. Hello. Hello. Yes, I want to take a quiz. Love quizzes. They're my favorite. I'd say Pillbug. I'd say roly-poly, maybe? Interesting. We may need to find a little bit more flexible of a way to take in these slots. Because it's not really, none of our entities are really closed classes. Like, they could be a number of different things. So anyway, that's a problem for future Rachael. And then I'd say y'all. Oh, it's not gonna like that. Yeah. Because this was, again, is not an example that it's seen before, so I'd say y'all with the apostrophe in the right place. All right. So here are the answers, and then we encountered an exception again. So it looks like the form action is running fine, so we know the problem's not with the server, but then we're having a problem with the detect dialect action. So let's check out the server logs. Local variable bug referenced before assignment. Okay, I see. So it looks like there's definitely... Let's see if this will work. All right, so stop this. Yet again, open in terminal, and make sure this is saved. Rasa run actions. Oh, interesting. So it looks like there's a network error. On Twitch. I don't know why I'm saying that. They can't hear on account of the network error. But YouTube seems to be going strong, so mysterious. Oh, and Avinash says there's a little bit of a delay in the chat. Says I think there should be a function named run in each class to run that particular action. You are correct, 100%. I should have checked the chat earlier. Oh, thank you. So Avinash has come through in a pinch here. So my problem is that I should not be treating this as a variable. I should be treating it as a string, so it'll go and look up the slat value. Thank you. Okay, so that should work fine now, hopefully. I'm gonna do this again. So now hopefully when we run our it's thinking. So now hopefully when we run our conversation, we should get information excuse me, from the bug slot. Bulk Clap says, I can hear you fine on Twitch. Oh, fantastic. Hopefully you can also see me. I don't think I'd want to just listen to somebody do live coding. Although, I don't, maybe you would. Hello. Yes. I would love to take a dialect quiz. I'd call it a roly-poly. Oh, that says, looks like it says roly-poly, which is not what I would say. Nope, that's nothing. That's not a word. Soda. There we go. Finish says, the German word for bless you. Thank you. I'd say y'all. There we go. Okay, moment of truth. So it's telling us what the values of our slots were, and then it encountered an exception and did not set our slot value. All right. Let's check the server logs. Name slot set is not defined. It is potentially the case. It might be the case that I have not in fact imported that. So let's just really quickly check that out. All right, checking out the forums. All right, So somebody in my question else had a similar question. Return. Could I not set the slot value and the value of run? So this person is actually asking, this person is actually asking, can you set the slot value not in return? And it looks like it's not happening. Oh, I see. Okay, this is interesting, but also not not what I'm looking for. So let's see if I can find my repository where I know it works. More clicking around. Sorry. Okay. Nope, I don't want OneDrive. Okay. So looking at the actions here, did I import set slot? Yes, from events. Okay, I absolutely did. And hopefully that is in events and not in, let's find out. Also, okay, first that. And also we can import these together and make that better. I think these are supposed to be in alphabetical order. Well, let's just try it. Nope. Events is what this is called. All right. And one more try, and then if that doesn't do it, I will keep working on this on my own so that we have something that works next week. And hopefully I'll have the data to do the actual machine learning. All right. Sun actions. Run the actions. Looks like that worked. And let's stop and restart. I don't actually know that I need to do this, but that sounds like a question for future Rachel. Hi. I wonder if I should start with an utterance as well. Like, instead of waiting for the user to say hi, like, immediately ask them if they want to take a quiz. That might be a little bit smoother. And that way they know that, like, that's the point of this particular interaction. But that is fine-tuning for the future. Yes. Love to take a dialect quiz. Never taken a dialect quiz in my life. That's a lie. I've taken a lot of dialect quizzes in my life. I'd say potato bug. I wonder if I don't have an example like I'd say. Are y'all ready to go? Okay, so now it should tell me what all my slots are, and then it should have an error. It worked! Okay, so this crunching the data is the first thing. Is the first thing from this run action that I should have just called run in the first place instead of getting all excited about calling it something else. So this dispatcher utter message, and then it does this, but it doesn't print it here. It should print it in the server logs. Yeah. So in the server logs, it printed out potato bug, but that wasn't user facing because I didn't do anything with it in regards to an utterance. And then it sets this slot. And then this, you sound like you might be from the United States. This slot, the United States, was plugged into this utterance. You sound like you might be from Dialect. where dialect is the slot, and it went and got the value for that slot, which happened to be the United States. So we got the bones going. We've got, and we know that this bug slot info is in fact the information that we got from the form that the user just filled out. So that should be good to go. And we've got all the pieces in place now, and we just need to, sprinkle a little machine learning on. And also, I really want to go through and have some additional conversations, do some annotation, and iterate on this a little bit using Rasa X. So if I get the data before Friday, we'll be doing machine learning. And if I don't get the data before Friday, we'll still be doing machine learning, but human in the loop to improve our bot. And Avinash says, I'm sorry if I'm saying that incorrectly, that's on me. Since Convert is trained on conversational data set, you will need less data to train the NLU. I found it better when compared to the results with other pipelines. Oh, good to know. So I might play around with that off stream and see if I can get the convert pipe working. Excellent. Well, thank you everybody for joining me today. Hopefully this was helpful or at least entertaining. And if you have any questions about Rasa, I would direct you to the forums, which are forum.rasa.com. So very active, good place to ask questions and just chat about conversational AI in general. Thank you so much for joining me. I will be back on Friday for more live coding, topic TBD, dependent on getting the data back or not. All right, thank you so much for joining me today, and I will see you on Friday. Bye.